Now? Really? I can hear Mike. Ooh, Mike is muted. Now? Hmm. Let me see how you hear my voice. I'm very curious. Let me see. It's a lot better. Should be like this now. Let me know if this is exactly how it should be, because I think I have just by mistake. Yes, that's perfect. Perfect. Okay. Great. So, sorry if I look a little bit transparent today, but I'm testing another kind of camera setting, and it's okay. So again, if you have quick question, do it now or never, cause in the meantime I will write what we have to study today. There are a lot of small things, but they are all useful. We have to study something called sun positioner. We have to study how to deal with exposure of your renderings in 3ds Max. By using something that is called exposure control. Then we have to see cameras. Then we have to see render settings for final presentation. Last but not least, in a few seconds, I will show you how to import 3D blocks. Okay? Perfect. So, first of all, this is today menu. Let's see all of your questions. Mic is muted. Perfect. So, how do you want us to present the final project? This is a nice question, and I have something also to say about that. Should we install a rendering program? 3ds Max is realistic enough. I've installed the V-Ray, but best not my laptop. Yes, forget V-Ray because it sucks, first of all. And so, first of all, no, just use 3ds Max ART renderer. That is more than enough. Then Ami asks, what is the best way to export a 3D image to look most like a photo like? The best way is being good in 3ds Max. And can we quickly review what the final presentation should look like? It's not quickly. I have this beautiful idea that is this. Look. Sorry. Okay. So beside the 2D menu, I wanted to share this with you. That is, next week, technically, we have 2 hours of live streaming. So my idea would be this. I would like with you to have a small, quick, fast, super fast review in your projects for next week. What it means, there is this. Let's say you are able to upload on the server more or less exactly the final project that should be like this. It should be a PDF or PowerPoint or a series of JPEG files where you have, let's say, page 1, your name. That is fundamental. And then page 2, let's say the architect you have selected. And you can even take these by reopening your old AutoCAD project. So then the mood board, and then if you want, you can also include the CAD files, and then for 3ds Max, you have to make 6 additional pages in your presentations where you will place your 6 renders. Okay? This is how the final presentation should look like overall. And what I would like to do will be this. If you can send these presentations before next week, or let's say next week like at 10:59, okay? What I would like to do will be in the 2 hours of next live, I would like to review and to tell you something about projects. If I have seen that there are things you can improve, if you can make them better, if you can change something, if there is something wrong, and so on and so on. This is why, because in this way, what I want to do is I will give you an extension of 1 week in order to fix all those doubts, tiny mistakes, and so on that I will show you during the live stream of next week. Okay? So the idea will be this: till next week you work, you do your best, you upload whatever you get for next week. Then I will give you 1 extra week. So you have till May 27th to up and Italian time 13, take care, to upload your files. And this is 1 week extension. After this week, there is no mercy. Okay? At this day, this hour, I will lock, so I will close the possibility that you have to upload files on those Google Drive folders. I will close them. I will remove basically the property that you can share them. And I won't accept any file after this day. Okay? So really, don't try to say, Marco, I tried my best, but I couldn't upload it. I was just 5 minutes later. You have 1 week of an extension. So 1 week means don't wait May the 27th, 12:59 to upload your stuff, because at 13, boom, they will go. Then I have changed something in my original CAD design once it went 3D. It is okay if it is something a little adjustments, yes, but you have made a tree house. If then your project will look like this, that is not I've changed something, but is I've made another stuff. Okay, so something means something small. What about presentation for industrial? Presentation for industrial is, you have your final instructions. I gave you something like you have to make 4 materials and you have to design 5 different objects, so it is the same. You have to make a slide where you have your name first. Name, always. Then you present 4 materials that you have selected. Then you will make 6 renders. And you have 5 objects. So how it is possible? It's very simple. You will make 1 render with object 1, 1 render with object 2, 1 render with object 3, 1 render with object 4, 1 render with object 5, and you will make 1 render, so your 6th render will be a scene, a file, where you see all of your objects rendered inside same scene. That's it. If you are graphic, it is the same. If you are graphic, you have 3 brands. For each brand, you have to design the word, the logo, whatever, and you make 2 renderings of the same object from different angles or with different lights. So it is always like this. All of you have to make 6 renders. And to answer last question is it normal for rendering to take 2 hours? I would say only 2 hours. Only 2 hours. 2 hours is, I mean, I would say even 2 hours is very fast. So let's start with this, because your classmate says, since I've imported some decoration blocks, my 3ds Max stops responding. So let's start by showing you what should be last topic, that is how to import 3D object, because I want to explain how to manage 3D objects. Because look, if I go, this is my daughter book, you don't need it. Okay, let's say you go to a website like this, that is Herman Miller, or a website like that, that is, I will copy and paste it here if you want. And let's say you want to download something. Let's see if I can find something very heavy, like lamps, fireplaces. Okay, let's find something. Okay, let's say I want to use this fireplace in my project. That is actually horrible, but it's okay. So I download this file, I save it, and then I have to open the folder where, so if you want to also use same exact object, I am downloading this one that you find into the chat. And I open the folder where I have downloaded, and I can see that this is a zip file, so it is an archive. And I can't immediately use this object in my project. I have to extract it first. So I have to right click, extract all. It will make a new folder with this weird name, or I can change it fireplace. That makes more sense. Okay, and I have this folder here. In this folder, I have this object, and that is the one that contains the geometry, that has the extension of 3ds. By the way, if you see slightly different icons, doesn't matter, but you have to open the file that is 3ds. How to use it? That is very simple. You basically make drag and drop of this file inside your project, and you release your left button. And you have, look, your object here, and with a left click, poof, you place it in your scene. Okay? Now, before doing anything else, what I have to do is I have to be sure that dimensions of these objects are fine, because they are not right now. And how can I know it? That's very simple. I have my object. I make a group just in case, so that I select all different components of my imported object. I go to this menu on 3ds Max, the one that has that tool that is called Utilities, and I use this utility called Measure. Here, Measure. And if I read Measure, so do CAD blocks. First of all, this is not a CAD blocks, but this is a 3D blocks, because this is 3D, not 2D. Take care. And comes with their own materials. Some yes, some no. So for example, this is, as you may see, look, this has textures into the folder, so it has materials, but they must be fixed. So we have to see all of these things. Or if you want, once that they are imported, you can treat them as any other 3ds object. So you can change materials, scale them, modify them. I mean, of course, you can do whatever you want. But let's see this first. When you click Measure, you can see that this object, let's say, is for Z, so from the bottom to the top, this is 1,367 centimeters. That is clearly too tall for a fireplace. So what I will do is I click Scale. I scale it in all 3 dimensions till I reach the height that I want. Let's say I would like to have this object 120 centimeters tall, so I keep scaling till the height is written there, and it is 120. Perfect. Be so nice not to bother me and yourself in order to say, but Marco, this is not 120, this is 120.455. That's the same. In 3ds Max, it doesn't change anything, because those 4 millimeters of a difference will be never ever visible in your final renderings, because 3ds Max is about renderings, not technical drawings. Okay, so this is more than enough as being precise. The only thing that I have to do is I have to place it on the ground now. Okay, now it is underground. Okay, and I can also press Alt W to see my object from all viewports. This is my front, and now this is on the ground. And maybe let's place it in the center of my scene. Okay, so this is first thing that I have to do. That is, and now I will press again Alt W. I have imported my object, made it as a group, and correctly scaled it. This is step 1. Step 2 is I need to see if this material, if this object is super heavy or not, and I can do this in this way. Look, I click the fold shading and I set edged faces, and I can see, look, all all of these edges that my object has. Look how many edges this thing has. Here, into the flower. That is too much. And you know what happens? In 3ds Max, when you have objects with a lot of polygons, they will make your file heavy, and it would be hard to deal with these objects. So, if you need, you can apply a modifier to your object, or even better, you can ungroup it now, and you can delete this, and you can select okay, and you now it is not more a group, but you can select a modifier that is called Pro Optimizer. What Pro Optimizer does will be this. Look, you click, first of all, keep material, keep textures, keep UV boundaries, so the material won't be distorted, and then you click calculate. Once that you make this step, 3ds Max will say, look, just one fireplace has almost 20,000 faces, but what you can do with Pro Optimizer is you can decrease this number, and what 3ds Max will do is the more you decrease number of vertex, but if you see, can you see here what's going on? Look. Can you see that basically 3ds Max is removing unuseful edges, and you can see now that even the flower is, I mean, probably even too much. But you can see that 3ds Max is removing unuseful edges, but it is keeping the object there. Okay? And 0% is a little bit too much. You can't go extremely low. In general, you can go like 40%, so that you will have objects that are a lot less heavy. Okay? This is something that you can do if your computer can't handle a lot of polygons. And unfortunately, this is the only thing you can do. But like Julia asked, instead, check this. This object has certain components. I can see this part here. I can see this purple part. And then the white one. Okay? So what I can do is also I can check if this object has applied materials by making this. I open by pressing M my material editor. I use this button here, this one, that is called Pick Material, in order to see if my object already has an applied one. So I pick material, I pick on the object, and I can see this. Look, I can see that 3ds Max, and I'm not closing this error message because it is important. Look, I can see that that part has a material that is applied, but the material will be rendered, if I zoom in, material will be rendered in black. And this is why, simply because bitmaps that are linked to this material, as this error message says, cannot be found. So 3ds Max doesn't know where these pictures are. Okay, so what I have to do is I select the picture from the material editor by double clicking. I can see here that 3ds Max wants this file called Marble1 JPEG, but it doesn't know in which folder, because in here it should be written like C/Marco documents and so on and so on, but 3ds Max is failing to load it. So I will double click on the picture, click on the picture location, I go to my downloads folder, fireplace. No way! There is a picture called Marble1. So I tell 3ds Max that this is the picture he was looking, and I will repeat same step for this other picture. So double click, Marble1, failed to load, okay, go to downloads, fireplace, this is the picture, boom, I double click the material, I make it visible, let's see if it shows in my viewport. No way, look at that. And I have fixed my awesome marble for this part of my fireplace. And I will do the same for all other parts. So I open Material Editor. I can see that this part is looking just purple, so I pick this purple object. And again, it says that now the 3ds Max is not able to load metalbar.jpg, and as a result I have this black looking material with black looking pictures, so they are not loaded. Same thing, double click on the picture, open the picture location, go to your fireplace folder, go to metal bar, this one, and do the same for this. Double click, open, and you keep repeating these steps until you will have fixed all of your materials. And now this works. Okay? Yes? No? Probably? Or if you don't like, look, you just make your own physical material. You make it, if you want to make like brass, you make these very yellow, roughness, like this, metalness, a bit, okay. And if you want, instead of using the material that comes with the fireplace, let's say I want to make my own brass in here, so I make it by myself, and then I drag and drop this material to this part, poof, and I can apply my own materials even if this is a downloaded object. I mean, I can, once that is imported into 3ds Max, it acts like whatever other 3ds Max geometry. Okay? Perfect. Yes, 3ds Max is complex, but the complexity of 3ds Max gives you also extreme freedom to create really whatever you can imagine. So let me show you how to use sunlight in your projects, and I will keep a fireplace there, why not? So the only thing that I will do will be I will create a room. Okay, that has realistic dimensions. It's a little bit tall, it's fine. Okay, shift and move. Perfect. So let's say I have this object here, and last week we have explored artificial light sources. Today I want to show you how simple it is to simulate the sun. To simulate the sun, you have to go to lights, and you have to use the object called Sun Positioner. Sun Positioner is a parametric object. You have to place it wherever you want. Doesn't have to be inside your room, inside your building. I highly suggest to place it a little far from the object so that if you need to select it, you can easily find it. In general, I just place it next to my object. And when you use Sun Positioner, with first click, you create a compass. And again, the size doesn't matter. When you release left button, you can choose instead north direction of your Sun Positioner, and you are free to move your mouse till you make a left click when you are happy with the result. And you have not finished it yet. You can keep moving the mouse to set the height of this symbol. So again, it's just a symbol, and it doesn't matter if it is so low or so tall. So just click it, and you have finally added your sun and the environment, that is the atmosphere, in your project. But if I go and I set my viewport like I did last week for artificial lights, so if I go to standard lighting and shadows and I click illuminate with scene lights, and I go again to here, lighting and shadows, and I also check shadows, I will see something really weird. That is, my final scene will be completely white. And the problem is that this is happening because sunlight is super bright. It is extremely strong, and I need to fix a couple of things when I work with sunlight. I have to adjust two things that are, I can change sun parameters, but into the sun you will never find parameters like intensity, color, or stuff like this. Technically, when you select the sun, look, by click move, you can't even move the angle of your sun light source, because intensity, angle, and color of light are managed in a realistic way by selecting the sun positioner, going to the modify tab, and if you scroll down, you will see that, believe it or not, you can change correctly parameters of your sunlight by changing the time of the day. So you will change the hour, and you go like nighttime, then sunrise, then morning, midday, afternoon, and you can change the hour. You can fine tune the angle by changing minutes. You can simulate a different day, so you can really simulate behavior of light, let's say today. that is 13 May 2020. And because you all know that this will completely change if you are in a certain point of the planet, because if in Italy, let's say, is spring, maybe in somewhere else will be winter or summer or another season. So you can change the time of the day of the year, and you can also change the location on Earth. Let's say you can change here, Wisconsin. What is this? Michigan. Or you can change another continent, Europe. Here there should be Rome, Venice. Or you can even uncheck nearest big city, and you can move your cursor wherever you want. Let's say Florence. Florence should be more or less here. That is pretty fair as numbers. So for example, I can simulate that at 11:56 today in Florence, light will look like that. Okay? So this is first thing I can fix. I can fix direction, color, and intensity of light by changing day, hour, day, location. But I need to make another adjustment. That is this. Can you see that everything is white? And imagine this realistic situation. If you stay inside your kitchen, let's say, for a long, or inside your room in general, your eyes will see that room correctly. But if you go immediately in your terrace, so you go from a dark place to a bright one, your eyes needs a fraction of time to balance the difference of light. And what they do is that they will close iris of eyes in order to adjust what is called exposure, so how much light reaches our eyes. Same thing can be done in 3ds Max, and it has to be done, it has to be done each time that you change light sources, so if you use artificial or sunlight, by going here. By going to rendering, then you find exposure control, and exposure control is here. What you have to do here is very simple. That is, first you click render preview, and you can check in this small window that your rendering will really be super white. So what you do is the exposure is managed by this number here, the one that is exposure value inside global exposure tab. Take care, don't change this one because it doesn't change anything. And this number has a pretty simple way to work. That is, if you increase it, your rendering will be darker. So if you make plus, so if you make this number bigger, you will make your render darker. As well as if you decrease this value, your render will be brighter. Okay? And what is phenomenal is that there is not like a correct value to write, you have to check it instead. So I will start, mine is too bright, clearly, so I have to increase exposure value. And I keep increasing it till I will discover how will be when I will render it. Let's say 14 will be fine. I like this way. Okay, so when I will render now, let's see, I render and my great looking architecture will be perfect. Okay, another thing that I want to do is I want to make a material for my walls, because I want, so I make a, sorry, went too low. I make a simple white material because I want to show you that when you change the hour of the day, look, so if I select all my walls and I make them white, so check this. When you change the hour of the day, you are not only changing intensity and direction. Look. But if I change it, I change also the color of light. So on morning, light would be a lot more yellow, almost orange. Then 5 sun is not born yet, but if I go then to 12, I will see that light will become a lot more white. And then in the afternoon, again, light will turn to yellow. But this is also because I am simulating light in Florence in May. Maybe if I change it to, let's say, at 5 p.m., if I use winter, maybe this is already dark. There is no light. Okay. And I will change this. Okay, so when I change hours and the day and so on and so on, I basically affect light behavior for direction, intensity, and color. And due to this reason, let's say, if I change the hour of the day, maybe now at this hour my light is too strong, so I have to go again to exposure control, click render preview, and maybe if I want, I have to adjust a little bit the exposure control, clicking render, because if not, my rendering will be a little bit too bright. Okay? Of course, it is okay to render without using sunlight. I mean, I'm showing you different options, and you are free to choose if you prefer to use it or not. When I click render, it tells me to select a camera. That is not true, because go to rendering, render setup. Be sure that you are using production render mode and not something else like cloud render. Check it. And let me know. And then there is another question that I've missed because Nicole asked, what would be an ideal time for rendering? I will show you in a second. Let me see if now Amy can render. Let us know, because we are all waiting for you. What is OMG? Perfect. I'm happier than you. So Nicole asks, Nicole, I've lost. Okay, what would be an ideal time for rendering? That is an interesting question, because in general, architectures are looking better when there are interesting shadows projected on shapes of the architecture itself to make them looking to better understand the depth of different objects in the building. It is, I mean, something that you do, let's say, when you sketch by hand, when you draw by hand. If you have ever seen, there is, in general, let's say, if I have a floor plan, I don't know if you have ever done, but it is an interesting way to work to make something that is called a 45 degrees shadow. So the shadow projected by my floor plan will look like that. Same thing when you when you draw an elevation. So if I make an elevation like this, and I have this object that is protruding, and I have this object that is behind, a better way to understand what is in front and what is behind is you say, okay, this is like that, and this object projects a shadows on the building that is behind. Same thing may happen here. Okay, and you see different depths inside your project. At the same way, you can basically use this rule in order to check that you should see, first of all, where is the north direction, and then according to this, in front and in floor plan, so I will simply change the hour of the day, and I will also slightly rotate the north, so that in floor plan and in elevation, the angle of my sunlight is more or less 45 degrees. Doesn't matter if it is 45 from left, that is morning, right, that is morning, or you change it to the afternoon. Like this, it is still 45. And it is also still 45 into the top view. But in general, keeping a 45 degrees angle between the light and your buildings is a good way to create a nice, interesting balance between light and shadows. Okay? I hope it was clear. But there's another problem. There is this. Look, let's say I have this building. And when I render, it renders fine the outside. So in 3ds Max, there is something that I can't miss. That is, if I want light to go inside my projects, I need to create windows. So I need to create openings. Like I will select this wall, I use ProBoolean, I go to subtraction and I subtract it. And because light is coming from, no, you see on the opposite. So light is coming from here. Okay. What you have to do is, I mean, you have your light from here, the window from here, and this will be a perfect setup for this room. But if I have another room that has the window here, making a rendering with the light from there will keep this particular room dark. So I will render in this situation. I render. Let's see. And I can see again that something interesting is happening. That is, while the outer rendering was fine, my inner rendering is still looking dark. So again, as well as there is not a very precise hour of the day, you have to check it. There is not even a precise exposure value that you have to check, that you have to keep, because it changes according to how big your windows are, at what time of the day you are simulating light. So each time that you adjust the light, you have also to adjust the exposure value. I need to decrease it because I want my inner rendering to be a bit brighter. Something like this. I click render, and I will have that my beautiful white house with a useless fireplace in the middle looks very interesting. Okay? Till here? Yes? No? Maybe? Tell me something? Can you suggest a good site for landscape material, such as trees? Trees, you say. Trees is a very complex topic because trees in 3ds Max are just unbelievably heavy. And what you should do will be this instead. If you need vegetation, unless you are looking for something specific, because if you're looking for something very specific with a certain shape, you should really make trees by yourself, and making trees in 3ds Max is unbelievably complex. And look, I'm not going to explain what I'm doing because it would be very complex. But just to show you, if you really need a very specific tree, let me tell you, you should make it by yourself. And I'm doing this as fast as I can so that you can get it. Okay, and then doing something like this. Perfect. Okay, it's very complex. Okay. Okay. And then no, I don't like this one. Okay. And then you should do something like this. These are roots, for example, for the tree. This is here, this is there. Perfect. Then you go here, you go there, and you start making something like this. Sorry, the sound is not included in 3ds Max. You have to make it by yourself. And then you start drawing all branches of your tree. Okay. And this is a process that basically takes forever. So, way number 1 is you make trees by yourself. And then I won't even explain how to make leaves because we'll stay here for days. You apply Turbo Smooth. And you have your beautiful, it's a little bit creepy, honestly. It looks more or less, because I was too fast, it looks like a Nightmare Before Christmas tree, you know, like those Tim Burton movies. And it's very nice. Let's see. If not, a better way, so let's say I'll make this. Exactly. This is Nightmare Before Christmas. And if you're not looking for extremely specific trees, do this. Go to Create. Open the menu where you see Standard and go to the sub menu that is called AEC Extended. In here, there is, sorry, I was clicking. In here, there is a tool called Foliage. And in here, you can choose between a small selection of pre-made kind of trees and a couple of plants. Let's say it's Scotch pine, and you select this one, you make one left click, and you have, in one click, a tree in your scene. It already has materials, it already has leaves, it also has parameters. So, if you select it and you go to the Modify tab, you can change height, change density, change pruning, and you can make like a dead tree because you can hide the leaves, for example, hide the branches, or have or knowing roots or flowers or fruits. It depends on the plants that you are using. And last but not least, you can change this number that is called seed. this is a random number that changes the aspect of the tree. And why? Because if I make shift and move, and you can also see, and I make a copy, and you can see that 3ds Max, to save memory, if you use trees made directly inside 3ds Max, it saves a lot of memory when you deselect them, and it shows them with this approximate way, but when you render they will be fine. But you can see that these trees, look, they will be exactly the same. And this is so fake. So if you want to make a tree that is pretty similar without becoming crazy, just change seed and you will see that your tree will randomly change its aspect. So you can have a same tree as a type, but you can have different variations of same one. Make another copy, another seed, boom, and you have 3 pines. They are same type of tree, but all slightly different, so to add realism to your vegetation. Okay? And when you render, they will be rendered with bark and leaves and whatever. You're welcome. Perfect. So let's see another thing about rendering. So we have seen how to import blocks. We have seen how to use sunlight, how to use exposure control, believe it or not, even how to use trees. So we need the last 2 beautiful small things that we have to learn to make decent final quality presentations. One is we have to use cameras, and this is why. First of all, when you make your projects, you know that you have to build your project as it is. So it won't happen that in your project you have one wall missing. And this is because you can say, but you know what? I will render from here, so no one will see that there is no wall behind my point of view, so I won't do it. And that is wrong, because a wall in here makes a lot of difference. Imagine this. Look, I will put inside my project a teapot, and I will apply to this teapot, I will make it by myself, I will apply a material that will be highly reflective. So I will make my material roughness 0, metalness 1. So basically I really want this to look like more or less a mirror. Okay? So this object is reflecting whatever is around it. And look, I will place it here next to the fireplace. I will make this rendering and I will hit render button. Because I have a missing wall, okay, because we have a missing wall, we can see something that is 100% wrong. That is, my reflective teapot is reflecting clearly the fact that here it is reflecting the window that is open, and that is fine. But it is also reflecting the fact that behind my point of view there is a missing wall, so it shows me this big bright sky here, and that is wrong. So what I have to do when I make my projects is I have to make them exactly as they are in reality. So I have to build the wall in here as well. So now the problem becomes, how can I correctly control from where I'm taking my rendering? So where I'm shot, basically the picture of my rendering. And this is why in 3ds Max, when you go to create, there is also a family of objects called cameras. You can use two of these. There are, you should use only target or free camera, not physical, because physical camera has additional exposure control, so it makes life more complex. And you cannot use Corona because Corona is a camera that is there only because I have an external software called Corona Render, and now you can't even see it anymore. Okay, so you should use only or target or free cameras. They work with same parameters. They have one small difference that I will show you in a second. There is this. A free camera is simply a camera that you create with one click, and now you can move the camera to change its position, and you can use rotate to change where the camera is oriented, while target camera is a camera that you create with two clicks. So you left click and drag, and you have this object. The only difference will be that the camera that has a target will always point at its target. So if I want to move the camera, I can move the camera, but no matter where I point, where I place the camera, the camera will point at the target. So to manage this camera, I have to move or the camera or the target. Okay? And you have to move or one or the other. In general, when you want just to take a picture of a space, you can quickly use free camera. But if you want to be sure that you are keeping a certain object as a center of your picture, in that case, you should use target. And the way that they work is this. Look. And this would be out of this world. I have pressed this button here, or you can quickly press Alt W to minimize or maximize viewports. And this is why, because what I want to show you now is this. First of all, how can I know what my cameras are viewing? My cameras are created with a sequential name. So if I make my first camera is called camera 1, second camera is called camera 2, and so on. And if I want to see what my camera 1 is viewing, for example, I can go where I find perspective written. I left click here, and I can see that there is a menu called cameras, and simply because I have just two cameras, I can read here that I can swap between camera 1 or camera 2. So if I select camera 1, believe it or not, this is exactly what this camera is viewing right now. And if you don't believe me, and you should never do something like this, but if I move this camera, I will see that I will change what my camera is capable viewing. I can move it in floor plan, I can move it in one of my elevation, I can rotate it. I can rotate it up and down. I can rotate it in floor plan. I can rotate it in this weird angle. This in photography or in cinematography is called Dutch angle. That is when the horizon is on purpose extremely tilted. Or I can make it more horizontal, like this. Perfect. Okay. And there is one last thing that you need to know about cameras. That is this. Can you see this kind of triangular shape that is going out from my camera? That is what my camera is capable viewing. So in photography, this is called field of view. And what it means is that, no, gray. Let's change the color. Basically, this means that if this is my camera, whatever is inside this area is something that for my camera will be visible. And if I have objects here, I won't see them in my camera view. So the only thing that I need really to know about my camera parameters is only that the field of view is a number that is in decimal degrees, and I can change it from the Modify tab. The higher is, the wider my perspective becomes. The smaller is, the narrower my perspective becomes. Okay? In general, you shouldn't go higher than 100 degrees, because if not, perspective will look a little bit too distorted. Okay? And same exact sorry, then I will answer your questions. And it is exactly the same to work with target cameras. So just the difference that target camera has a target. So if I want to see what my camera 2 is viewing, look, I go to camera 2 and my camera 2, as you see, is looking down. Let's say I have my teapot. So what I will do is I will move the target to the lid here of the teapot. That for me is my target. And now check this. No matter where I place my camera, but if you see, let me draw this like a target. But if you see here, you know, like a target of a scope, because that is my target point, look, no matter where the camera is, my camera will always look at its target, unless, of course, I move the target of my camera. Okay? And I make this beautiful view, for example. Okay? So let's see what Romina asks. It is fine if renderings are a bit tilted, or it is preferred to have perfectly straight. The answer is the second. In general, I can show you, if you look for fine art interior photography, you will see something that is always visible. Look at this, for example. In good looking interior renderings, vertical and horizontal lines are straight. So the horizon is straight. All horizontal lines, look, they are perfectly horizontal, as well as all vertical lines are perfectly vertical. This is the difference between a picture and a good architectural picture. Believe it or not, most of images that you see into magazines are adjusted with softwares like Photoshop or stuff like these in order to make them straight. Let's see if I just find a interior picture, something that is not fine art, something, just a picture of a room, but they are all already adjusted. I mean, a picture made with the phone, something very bad. Let's say bad. No, these are just horrible looking interiors. No, I mean, this one is nice. Now I can quickly find, but I mean, in Photoshop, for example, there is a tool that allows you to stretch the image, so you can also use it in order to straighten the horizon. Okay, now I'm not finding images that I would like to show you, and I can just browse pictures randomly. So, like, let's say, find office inside picture. I mean, this should be bad enough. Okay, let's take a look at this picture that is terrible. In Photoshop, for example, this picture could be adjusted, because if I save this picture, I save it into my desktop. Okay, then look. Okay. Let's open Photoshop. We have almost done. But see this. Even if you make a not that great looking render, you can open it in Photoshop, because when you make a rendering, then it is just a picture, and you can see that here the vertical lines are not vertical at all, and and horizontal lines again are not horizontal at all. So what you have to do is you have to Control A to select all, Control T to transform, and you left click outside to start rotating your rendering, and you can fix something, but this is not magic. What you can do also is, while you are inside Control T, you can press Control and click on vertices to change the perspective of your image, so that at the end, that is fantastic, say, at the end, lines will be horizontal and vertical. Let me check. This is horizontal. Perfect. Okay, then you simply, unfortunately, have to crop this image in order to use only usable area. Okay, hide. And you have fixed your render. Okay? If you don't want to waste time in fixing renders, the way to achieve this in 3ds Max is being sure that the camera and the target, or if you are just using a free camera, they are perfectly horizontal. If they are perfectly horizontal, vertical and horizontal lines will be vertical and horizontal. Okay? Is that clear? Let me see. Perfect. So, last thing for today. Look. When I render, you may notice that my renderings are extremely bad. I mean, there's nothing else to say. They are really bad. And the thing is that they are bad simply because they are test renders. What I should do when instead I want to make my final quality super beautiful renderings, and I can see that my renderings are suffering of 3 clearly visible problems. Problem number 1, my images have very small dimensions. So in terms of resolution, they are extremely low quality. Thank you so much for compliments also. Then I can see that my image lacks in sharpness. So all edges are very rough and pixelated. And third and more visible problem is that my image has a lot of visible noise. So this kind of grain that you see, all these dots. And these are the 3 problems that I want to eliminate, that I want to fix just by changing. Wait a second. Let me finish this, then I will answer to your question. But just by fixing 3 render parameters. Look, I go to rendering, render setup. Problem 1, resolution. I change it here. Where when I am into common tab, this is my output size, and the bigger I make it, the more resolution I have it. It is written, if I remember in my instructions, that I want renders to be 8600 by 8200 pixels, and this is where you should write those numbers. So it has to be 1600. 1200. Okay? This is the resolution. Problem 1 fixed. If you want it bigger, make it bigger. For my exam, not bigger than this. Second parameter, sharpness, so general quality. You go to Art Renderer, and nothing easier than shifting quality till high. Don't go over than this, for two reasons. Because it would be just a waste of time, and because 90% of our laptops can't handle the amount of calculation required to have extra high or maximum quality, and they will just freeze. Or in the worst case, they will burn. And let me finish. Noise instead is something that I have to avoid by clicking noise filtering and by making this to 75%. And again, not more, because you will remove even textures and also because it will be too heavy as a calculation. Just one small note, remember that now if you press render, I won't do this because I can't live stream and render in final quality. A rendering like this will normally take from 2 to 3 hours to be made. So remember this for your final presentation, because 6 renders means, let's say 3 hours each. They are 18 hours. 18 hours where your computer will just make renders. And if you try to do something else while your computer is rendering, your computer will freeze and you will lose everything. Okay? So, let's answer these 2 questions. Julia asks, how do I make wooden blinds / curtains for a glass house? Do you have a tip? Of course I have. Let's say, first of all, if this is what you want to obtain, there is let's say you have a glass house and you want to make stuff like this. Like these, like that. It is this the effect that you want? Or these are super cool. I mean, not that cool actually. But stuff like these. Is this the effect that you want to obtain? And then I will answer to next question. Yes, that's too easy. Look, that is really, really, really too easy. You make lines and you can make like one straight line. Or you can even make more complex things, like another line that is going all along the corner or whatever. Just line, okay? Then I just move these up a little bit. And what you have to do is you select your line, you go to the Modify tab, you open Rendering, and you make your line enabling renderer, enabling viewport. But here the trick is you don't select radial thickness, you make it rectangular thickness. And in perspective, your line will look like this. So you adjust the size of your visible thickness, and then see the magic. I shift and move these up, and I make a lot of instances. But now they are flat, okay? But only because I have selected rectangular visible thickness, I have length, that is this parameter. Width is this parameter, but there is also angle when I make my rectangular thickness that will give me the possibility to rotate them with the angle that I want, and because they are all instances, they all rotate with the same exact angle. Fantastic, isn't it? You just give wood as material and you are good to go. Also, because they are instances, you apply wood to one of them, they will all have wood. Okay? Was it clear? I know, but you know what? If I'm a little bit fast, first of all, because I want to try to answer as many questions as I can. Second of all, because that's too easy. Third tip, I don't know if you know it, when you watch YouTube, let's say, I can't watch other videos, okay? You can always click settings. Let's mute my voice. You go to settings, and if you want to see things going a little bit slower, you can go here. There is written speed, and for example, you can make it 0.5, and you will see the entire video going slower, and you can have, you know, like the mouse that is going slowly here and there. Okay, in general, for live streaming, this would be a little bit weird because even my voice will look like it is slowed down. Okay, but you can slow down videos in general on YouTube. I think you know that. Also, with just 3 seconds to chat, I have to adjust something in my setup, because you can see that, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but I have, because I'm really picky. I have a green screen behind my shoulders to make this kind of transparency effect. But as you can see, today is not working very well, because this morning I was fixing something, because I have a big problem. That is, in all my videos, due to the fact that I have green eyes, whenever I look right in front of the camera, even my eyes are becoming transparent, and this is so creepy, and I have to fix it in some way. I mean, this is just to have fun. So, last question instead, that is Farida asks, Marco, how do I remove shadows when I render? And this is a very important question, because the answer is, don't try to do this. Shadows are physically correct phenomenons, and they must be there. If in your project there are shadows, the problem is there are too many shadows, I would say, not just shadows. But if you think that in your project there are too many or there are too much shadows, the problem is your project itself. So either your windows are too small, there are not enough windows, light is not properly set. So let's say you have light from here, the windows is on the other wall, or your artificial lights are too weak, or they are not enough, but shadows must be in the rendering because they are the only way that our eyes can use to check the depth of objects. Look here. No, because this is extremely important. Don't try to make renders without shadows because that is failing. So, exposure control, okay. Let's imagine this. Imagine that in my project there is just one light, stuff like this. Okay. So I render this view. Okay. Maybe from here. Perfect. So I've changed it from sunlight to artificial light. I go to exposure control, just click render preview, should be very dark. So I decrease the exposure. Very nice. Okay. And I render. No. Sorry, I forgot I've set final quality renders, so that will take 3 hours to render. No. So go back to draft, noise filter, common, 640. Okay, so look, I render. This is why, because in a second screen I can see that my streaming was. Okay, look. I can see now that the teapot is touching the floor because there is a shadow in here. And I can see that behind the fireplace there is a wall because the fireplace is projecting a shadow on my wall. If by mistake I make something terrible, that is, I select the light and I turn off shadows, I render, and objects will float. No, did I? Okay, use global vision. Okay, let's see now. Because I have shadows enabled by default, so I can't even disable. I mean, I can't do it. No, it doesn't matter if it is for graphic, for interior, but light means shadows. And you can see that something is round, for example, even when you draw, and you draw something like an apple, a sphere, or stuff like that. But when you draw, no? Look. Let's say you draw something round, and if I draw something like this, this is round, no? But this will look flat. But if I want to display the depth, I have to make it this part darker. Here I will draw the shadow, and here I will make my highlight. So even if it is for graphic, there must be shadows. Okay? Don't try to make things without shadows, because they will look just a 2D drawing made with Illustrator. Okay? Is that clear for all of you? Exactly, you have to work by balancing where lights are. You can make them with bigger shapes so that shadows will be softer. You can change the intensity. You can place them maybe further from the object so that they will cast a different kind of shadows. So no. Play with lights until you find the right setting. Okay, so this is to finish today's class. Also because I'm already receiving a lot of messages that are saying that I have to help other FTH teachers, like I do at school, fixing their streams. So for now, I have to close, and we will see each other next week, Wednesday, with all of your questions, by having a live review of your projects so that you can refine them and make them awesome. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a nice week. Have fun as usual, not too much. Bye. And stop it.